Hey there, I have a real bee in my bonnet about something I've noticed lately, and I wonder if you've noticed it too. Have you seen or heard where two things, usually people, are being compared against each other in a way that a lot of times I'm hearing around the issue of being heroes? So I read things like, okay, the true hero is the person that's been on the front lines during the pandemic since March, being held up, or the true person is the person that has sacrificed for our country. Or recently I read something that was actually pitting, the idea of whether a person fighting a wildfire has a different experience from a person who's battling cancer. And it really struck me, why the need to be comparing at all? In a way that frankly feels kind of judgy to me, kind of mean, and also like, how the heck would you have someone who's making an amazing contribution, dealing with uncomfortable challenges, be like evaluated as less than the other one, not the true hero? And I think what it means is we could all use a bit of a refresher course on the value of comparing. So comparing is a really natural thing to do as human beings. It can be something that's really helpful or not so helpful. So I want to tease those two things out a little bit so that you can have a sense of paying attention in your own life if you've been doing that, because I think we can all get stuck in the trap of doing comparing that doesn't work so well for us, and doesn't really have us coming out better for it, versus the kind that really works for us in a forward moving way, in an inspiring way. So first, to sort of go back, the one that I was talking about earlier, of course, if I'm annoyed by it, that's the unhelpful one. I know that we tend to try to make order out of our lives, and that's where, as humans, one way to do that is to compare. I mean, at the root of it, social psychology even talks about it. When we try to make order of our world, we try to figure out who we're going to be managing through our lives, there's value in looking to others who have gone before us in a way that inspires us, lifts us up, helps us define ourselves. Where it gets to be in excess, like what I was describing earlier, where what's going on that somebody's saying, okay, if this person who's doing a really hard job is better than the other, that's where something, and I think also it occurs, because I'm sure you've read about this a lot with social media, where people, and you probably do it yourself, where it's the thing about, people put their best stuff out on social media, and then for a person that's looking through, they can feel less than, because of course that person's putting their best self, and they're not really putting reality out there. It's a piece of their reality. It's like their great day when the family was getting along really well and they were celebrating something great, and hair looked good because they made sure they did it before they took the selfie. All that. Well, here you and I are like living through our lives, and we're like, oh, I compare myself to that. That ain't my reality, and it can weigh us down. So there's that piece too, where I think social media has incredible value for us all feeling connected, but that's one area, when you agree, where it just doesn't serve a purpose to be saying, look, if I go through this comparison and I'm left feeling not great about myself, what's going on there? So that said, what I want to talk about a little bit is the helpful type of comparison. So as humans, one way that we make sense of the world, and like I said before, we define ourselves, is often we look to see other experiences as a way to say, hey, how am I doing? So I encourage you, if you notice that, this is all about, taking a look at the thoughts we have about that, and using them in the way that has us feeling more than by the end of it. So it's really easy to do. When you notice yourself comparing yourself, or it's also about when you have the experience I did, where it's something outside of us, where you're looking at two things being compared. That triggers ideas about our values, right? Like, do I feel like the person who battled and overcame cancer is better than? That reflects my values about that struggle, versus the person that maybe has served our country in war. So it has the opportunity for us to look at values and say, yeah, my values may be different from that other person's. It also, though, has us looking at, when you go back to the comparing and the helpful comparison that we all do, this is the great guideline for you. When you notice yourself doing it the next time, if you feel like by looking at someone else's experience, you either get ideas from them, or especially when we're younger, we do this, when we're really figuring out who we want to be, the kinds of jobs we're trying on, the type of partner we want to be. But this does continue, right, for the rest of our lives, just very much for younger people. Where did they get that? Well, they look at other examples, right? That's classic idea of a role model. They look at others and there's an element of, okay, I like that, I want to try that, don't like that, no thanks for me, or I see what that person has in a relationship or in a career or just in the way that they're giving to others, and I want a piece of that. That's the kind of helpful comparison that I want us all to be doing, where we're all lifting each other up. And you'll know it because when you pay attention and you find yourself thinking about someone else, you just can pay attention to how you're left feeling after you make the comparison. So if it's, oh, they remind you, okay, that's something that they're really working on and I'm kind of slacking in my life, use that as a way to inspire and motivate you. You know, I want a piece of what he's having. If, however, you notice that it's not, it's having you sort of sapping you of your self-respect, saying, oh, they made it all happen and I didn't do anything, or they have everything and I have nothing, that's the unhelpful stuff. So what you could do is pay attention to how it lands for you afterwards, and you notice yourself, yeah, hey, that person, that's what we talk about when we talk about connecting with others who inspire us. You say, look, I want to look at how they did that because I think I want to try that. Does that make sense? Yeah, and I'm sure you notice that you've done this yourself. So when you look at the idea of the unhelpful, I probably don't even need to go into any more detail because you probably recognize that yourself sometime. Just want you to consider becoming more aware of when you do that and knowing that it's just one of those things, it's a habit that we all do that just doesn't really work for you very well, doesn't serve you, and it has you feeling sort of one down. That's why I brought up the issues that I've noticed before about like what the heck is going on that you're going to take a person who is, you know, been dealing with the awfulness of the pandemic, and you're going to put them in the ring and make a decision about whether they're like a better person, a hero compared to the other. That is absolutely, absolutely ridiculous. So if you notice yourself doing that with other people but yourself, just it's about being a little bit kinder, a little more flexible. Like the point is this, why do we even need to get in the business of comparing those two things? You know, a more evolved way of thinking is they're both freaking amazing. Now, yeah, you may tap into one more than the other because you relate to it, but why do we even need to be judging or comparing? So the last thing I want to mention about this is the idea of when we do the comparing in a way that, you know, kind of fills you up, where you say, yeah, I feel like I'm really on track, or no, wow, they remind me I want to work on that. Sort of that way that sort of lifts you up and feels the strength just by saying they did it, I can do it. That's the awesome stuff. If, on the other hand, you find yourself thinking a lot about other people, doing a lot of scrolling on social media, I would challenge you that if you're focusing on other people a lot, you are likely not focusing on yourself. And it's just a habit that you can decide, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to pay attention, and I'm going to decide I'm going to let go of that. And I'm going to do what I call, you know, actually a very special person in my life taught me this, paddle your own canoe, and I love that saying, so thank you for that. You paddle your own canoe, and this is a person who's up to big stuff in their life. So, you know, if you're noticing there's a lot going on out there and you're feeling not so good about yourself, notice the connection between that and, well, let me focus, let me paddle my own canoe. I just love it so much. And that means in terms of making stuff happen in your life, focusing on you so that you have the energy to do those things, being with your people, all of that. When energy is going elsewhere, not only is that energy taken away, but also if it's making us feel worse about ourselves, there's that double whammy that works against you. So hopefully you'll take this to heart and remember, in terms of the comparison game, do compare when it works for you.